please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Chairman Slaughter, Commissioners. I haven't been here in a while. I have a lot of flashbacks as I think of this room.
We're having them too, Mike. Go ahead.
Are they one of those good or bad flashbacks? You never know.
All three.
Okay. It's really good to see you all. I'm here for one very simple reason. You all are receiving a flyer that we created not too long ago. Basically, I'm representing Lowndes Citizens Against Data Centers. And our objective is truly to educate our community, our city and county leaders about the various issues that are coming with data centers and why we believe strongly this is a bad idea for our community if it's not done in the right way. And there are always options to find better solutions, but we get to that in just a little bit. And this will not be the only time that I will be here. You will probably see my ugly face more often in the future. So what are the issues with data centers? As is summarized on the sheet you have in front of you, data centers, and this is fairly well known, use enormous amounts of water. And when you're dealing with times of global climate crisis and drought conditions in various parts of the country, you have to be very careful about what you're trying to get into when it comes to a potential customer who may need a lot of gallons of water every single day. An average data center may use 300,000 gallons of water each day. That is enormous amounts of water if you're considering, that for, say, a full year. And as a result, households and agricultural businesses are actually competing with data centers for a resource that can be increasingly scarce depending on where we are in this picture of global climate change. And we've had some experience with this ourselves here in the region. And as a result of that competition, you will basically see water bills going up. It's economics 101. If you have a high demand but the supply is relatively low or becomes lower, things become more expensive. The second issue is that data centers have high electricity demands. Powering and cooling the equipment of data centers takes enormous amounts of electricity, and depending on the size of the data center and the one that is currently apparently proposed or in the making for an area that's close to Foxborough, and I believe you are familiar with the area that's, I believe, owned still by Mr. Pope Langdale, and it's considered to be sold to a data center company. If that is indeed the case, you would have an entity in the county that could use as much power as 100,000 homes. It depends on the size. We all know how big Lowndes is, and just imagine that all of a sudden the electricity demand is doubling. In other words, with this high demand in terms of electricity, you have an enormous pressure on the electric grid. You need to build new transmission lines and substations. And if you happen to have residential areas or property in the value of these new installations, you also see a decline of the property value. And at the same time, which was also true for the higher demands for water, you have a high demand for electricity, and it will also lead to high electricity bills. There are ways to get around that. We'll come back to that maybe at another time when I come and visit you. Data centers are also, most importantly, a source of noise pollution. You have data centers that run 24/7. They use generators, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning HVAC systems to run properly and without interruption. They need to cool those machines and to make them, workable. If you have a small computer at home, you know how well they will heat up. If you have a laptop on your lap, you know that they will heat up. Just imagine the full factory full of high-speed or high-processing computers, and there's an enormous amount of cooling that will have to be done, or HVAC systems that have to be running outside, including the use of water. You have all of a sudden also impacts, particularly during times when we say we have electricity outages because of hurricanes, which we have lived through. At the last hurricane, we had 8 days without electricity. And in these 8 days, you have then diesel generators running to keep those systems operational. And if you live close nearby, you will have an incredible noise level to deal with. And if I would imagine that I live somewhere in Foxborough and I have a data center right next to me that is constantly humming as it is, and then during the storm when the diesel generators kick in, they will add to the noise pollution, plus you will have air pollution. That sounds to me more like a nightmarish kind of a scenario. So that is...
You know, you got about 30 seconds.
I'm talking too much, am I? You also have, as usual, thank you for that. You also, as usual, have the promises for more jobs and an economic development, which is typically not proven to be correct. There was fairly recently an audit done that actually clearly indicated that the economic revenues or the profits that would be coming from such a project were well overestimated. So these are the points I wanted to bring to your attention, that we can carefully reflect on this before we get ourselves into trouble.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.